Hey, what's up, man? Um, I'm not really sure how to start this, but I guess Caroline was sending me some of your questions, and I guess I can help you out. Maybe I have some answers, maybe not. Always remember though that any information anyone ever gives you, if it doesn't feel right for you, then it's not right for you. It doesn't, and that's okay. You don't have to take everything everyone gives you all the time. And if anyone tells you that you do, then they're probably lying to you. So I'm just gonna kind of go down the list Caroline gave me here. Okay, so your first question was why does source exist, or why is everything trying to experience itself? I mean, you just answered your question. Source exists because it doesn't always will. It's just one of those things that's just it does. You know, we're not necessarily at a level yet consciously to be able to understand source exactly, because we're not at a pure enough level. We don't necessarily can't see source as it truly is until you tap into it within yourself, and then you'll understand that the purpose is just to understand itself. I mean, it's the same reason why you look outside every day, why you make so many comparisons in your head, why you distinguish between you and it and everything else, because you use everything else around you to understand you, because inherently you can't know yourself unless you have something to reference it by. And the same thing is for source. Even though everything is source and everything is a part of source, source still wants to better know itself, and to do that it has to create something outside of itself to reflect upon, because source understands that everything is itself, that so it can understand that just by creating new things, it's not really creating new things, it's creating new expressions of itself, so that it can see what lies inside of itself, so that it can see what it is, because everything it creates is source. So it's the same with you and I. We create children and we have babies and stuff like that, and that's the same thing. We're creating something that is then that is a representation of ourselves, something that came from us, and I'm talking purely physically, but it's a representation of who you are and who someone else is together, manifest on the outside. So you can look at it as you creating babies to see what is inside of you truly, you know. Because if you notice, your parents might be like, oh, I was like that when I was a kid, or my brother was like that, So there's always these similarities in our personalities, because yeah, we do all come from the same physical, thing within your family. Does life have any objective meaning, purpose, or intrinsic value? Well, the meaning of life is what you give it. You know, you have the beauty of higher consciousness, and so because of that you can choose what meaning you put to life, because after all, life's only meaning is expression. Life's only true meaning is expression, is source trying to understand itself by creating. Now everything in between, your car, all that other stuff, that doesn't necessarily have meaning within itself. You give it meaning. We give it meaning. We give them names. We give them power over our lives, but they don't necessarily have it within itself. Now, I feel like life is a little bit different, than physical objects, in the sense that when you say life, you're talking about the I don't know. I feel like when you say life, you're talking about that includes yourself, because you yourself are life. And so, yeah, there's an objective purpose. Objective purpose is just to keep creating. It's just to keep understanding. You know, um, there's no I don't think there's necessarily any intrinsic value in life, because for there to be value in something, you have to have something that can observe value. You know, because not everything out there sees good and bad. Not everything out there sees, oh, that is nice, that is not. Not everything realizes life in this way. So, in that sense, objectiveness and subjectiveness are really just kind of human constructs. They don't necessarily, they might not necessarily exist beyond this type of existence. Our level of conscious awareness and physical manifestation upon this earth has caused us to come to a point to where we give things subjective and objective meanings, versus they just are. They are a part of it, and it's just what it is. Okay, if the point of life is not to just create new things and then die. Nothing dies. Everything is always. It's something you have to really remember, is that everything is always, and always is everything. Nothing ever dies. You might transition from one form to another, from one state of being to another, but you never die. And I think I know what you mean in that. I think you're talking about actual physical death. And in that sense, physical death is just a transition from being in reality with physical limitations to being in reality without, or with quasi-physical limitations. It's not necessarily 100% sure where you go. Sorry, where you go after you die, but we know that you leave a strictly physical, for the dimensional world. And it's not like, I think people get really confused and like, I'm just gonna go die and move on and live and be happy. Well, I mean, you have to remember, when you die, you no longer have the self. When you die, you no longer remember that you are you, because you're not really you. The construct of you is just that. It's a construct. It's something you've come up with so that you can exist in this reality, in this way. It's not necessarily something that is true, something that is 100% real. It's real, don't get me wrong, but when you leave this type of existence, that self, that ego is no longer there. You become a part of the collective oneness again, and then from there you do whatever you do, and you either choose or decide to come back and live another physical existence, or you do something else. Hello? Okay, sorry about that. Some random phone calls. I get a lot of random phone calls at times, and so I have to answer them, because you never know who it is. Okay, but yes, but so yeah, the point is not just to die and then to come back and create a new life. Because think about it, when you die, what happens to your physical body? Part of it is always still here. You never truly die. Your bones stay around for millions of years, unless you destroy them. And then even then, you're only transitioning them to another state of being. You're not destroying anything. You're just destroying the physical aspect of how they look. You're not necessarily destroying the atoms, the electrons, the protons. You're not really getting rid of anything. It's an interesting question. I think it's really interesting when people think of this way. You say, you know, that life and death is a cycle. Are we just living to die? And why shouldn't you end it now and wait for everyone to just catch up? Well, I mean, because you have to look at it like this. Life is not just this endless cycle. Yeah, like when you look at it, it's an endless cycle. It's a cycle that begins and ends all at the same time, forever and ever and ever. But that's beauty. It's not like it's a burden to begin and end forever and ever and ever. Because you might not begin in the same spot every time, and you might not end in the same spot every time, because the spots are endless. There are endless amounts of possibilities for you to begin and end from. And so it's like, if it was your time to go, you would go. It's that simple. If you were meant to kill yourself, you would do it. If someone is meant to go, they'll go. It's never. It's with that, it's always interests me because I've been there once, and I found that it's like you only wish to leave because you don't understand why you're here. You only wish to go because you don't realize how it works. So when you don't know how it works, you can't play in this. You can't learn like you're supposed to. You can't be free like you're supposed to. It's so. I think that's one. Sorry, I'm yawning so much. It's just early. It's not really early. It's like 10:35. That's actually like a pretty good day. But yeah. So it's like if it was your time to go, you would go, man. And I'm not saying that to like be weird or anything. I'm just real. I really believe that that if it was gonna happen, it would happen, and it's not something you have to. Well, why don't I just do this? Why don't? No, I mean, if you really were going to, you wouldn't. Not. And I know that some people are like, oh, you should never say that. Blah blah blah. I'm like, no, because you should. Because think about it. If you're thinking about doing something, and like people don't understand that you don't always necessarily want to leave this earth because you're sad. You don't necessarily always want to leave this existence because you're sad, because you're upset about what's going on. Sometimes you just really don't feel like being here anymore. Sometimes you really just feel like, okay, I don't understand it. I'm tired. I feel like I'm conflicting in this reality. I feel like I should go back to some more peaceful state of being. But then you have to remember that you chose to be here in this situation. You chose to have lived this existence here like this, and you chose your awakening to be as such. So it's like, it's alright, you're supposed to be here, you're supposed to be doing this. This is the right path, because now guess what? Now you have questions that can get answered, and when you start having questions, you can start seeking answers, and only when you start seeking answers will you get answers. You can't just expect to boom all of a sudden realize something. Like, no, you have to seek it, and you have to go through the hard work it takes to understand it, because it's not something that is just apparent. It's not something that just comes unless you take a trip or you do something or whatever. But even that information, it comes but at a price. You get all the information, but you're not able to decode it. You just present it to it in a way that you can see it, but you can't really understand it. So it's you never get the whole answer. So only through rigorous seeking will you truly find what you're looking for. Will you truly find all the answers, and it'll help you understand that, like, yeah, sometimes you feel like you want to go, and I understand that because I myself personally am not necessarily most fond of this existence at all times, but you have to realize that you put yourself here. You have to give yourself a lot more credit than what we normally give ourselves in life. Like, you're not powerless. You're not just here by accident. You didn't just happen to be born and drop. No, 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 no. You chose this existence because you knew that you needed this type of existence to learn whatever it is you needed to learn. Because remember, the whole purpose in life for a source is just to learn about itself. So that's no different for you because you are a part of Source and you are one with Source, and we all are. Our goals here is just to learn and to explore and to understand either ourselves, others, this world, but just understanding and growth and continuous evolution so that you can continuously searching for understanding at different levels and different planes of existence. And the consciousness, level of consciousness you're at really helps, and it does determine how much of that understanding and how much of that you can grasp and that you can search for, you know. And if, I mean, purpose is what you give it. We have the, just the beauty. You chose to be in this planet for a reason. This is a special place. Yeah, this is a place of limitations and duality and physicality and all those negatives. But guess what? Those negatives aren't negatives. You're just looking at it that way. Remember how I said nothing in life is inherently anything. You give things their properties. You give things their value. So you have to look at it as a positive thing. These things aren't negative because those limitations and those setbacks and this weighted body, all this allows you to gain understanding and experience that otherwise you wouldn't be able to gain in a non-physical existence. You wouldn't be able to learn about duality and how to overcome it. You wouldn't be able to learn about how to function under abnormal physical circumstances if you never experienced it or never lived it. You have to see these things as learning experiences and not as something, oh, it's terrible, something bad is going on, you know. No, 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 no. It's not like that at all. I mean, yeah, it feels that way sometimes, but it only feels that way because you allow it to. You know, in the end of the day, it's what you allow to happen, what you allow to exist will exist. And that's not to say that things out of your control won't still happen to you, because, I mean, things out of your control happen to everybody. There's always something out of your control because you don't control everything. But you can still control how you perceive them. You can still control how they affect you, how you react to them. You can still control everything about yourself in every situation. So in that aspect, you control your life. You know, you control what exists in your world. Someone punches me and I don't recognize it as evil. I control. There's still no evil. That person did no wrong. You know, I can choose to fight back and beat them up or whatever, or I could choose to understand that, hey man, they're probably really angry and there's probably something within them, or there's something within me that I'm projecting onto them that they're now showing me back. What's inside of me that is making them project this to me, you know? Because you only see what's inside of yourself. You can't see something that's not in your existence, you know? Does that make sense? You can't experience something that is not within your realm of existence, you know? So, life has life, life has purpose. It has the purpose you give it, you know? Life has the meaning you give it. And if you don't want your life to have meaning, that's up to you. That's a personal choice. Then that's something that you decided you needed to experience, was a meaningless life. Because even a meaningless life can be important. Because it can show you why. Because maybe you were someone at first who had lived a life of lavish and thought that, okay, I've lived this. I need to know what it's like to not have anything, to not have anything mean anything. That's a valuable thing. Because we live in this dualistic state of being, we think everything is either bad or good, but sometimes the bad is really the good, and sometimes the good is really the bad. So just think about it. It's all about how you think about it. How you decide to view it, because at the end of the day, only you exist. And I say that even though I'm talking, but that's because I realize that you are me and I am you. At the end of the day, you're the only thing that exists, and you have to do. You create your own existence, man. Like, well, I don't know how to get that to you enough. It's literally like